All right, let's dive into the book of Micah. It might be a short book, but wow, does it pack a punch. It's a book of these incredible contrasts, swinging from these fiery takedowns of injustice to some of the most beautiful, hopeful prophecies you'll find anywhere in the Bible. Okay, so to really get a handle on Micah, you gotta understand the world he was living in. We're talking the 7th, 8th century BC, and things were, well, they were chaotic. His work spanned a few different kings in Judah, but the real game-changing event was in 722 BC. That's when the northern kingdom of Israel got completely wiped out by the Assyrian Empire. And this wasn't some far-off threat. Assyria was this brutal superpower, and now they were right on the doorstep of Micah's home, the southern kingdom of Judah. The tension was sky high. Now, what's really crucial to grasp here is where Micah came from. He was active at the same time as the famous prophet Isaiah. But here's the difference. Isaiah was an insider. He was in Jerusalem walking the halls of power speaking to kings. Micah, he was a total outsider from a little rural town, and that gave him a completely different vantage point. He wasn't just thinking about injustice in the abstract. He was watching it happen to his neighbors, to real people. And that gives his message this raw, unfiltered power that is just undeniable. And that perspective, that outsider's view, brings us to the first big chunk of his message. Honestly, it reads like a legal case. It's this powerful, point-by-point accusation against the entire leadership of the nation, from the very top all the way down. So Micah starts his indictment right at the local level with social injustice. He goes right after the wealthy landowners who, as he says, plot evil on their beds. Just imagine that. They were using their power, finding legal loopholes to literally steal the land and homes from the most vulnerable families. And in doing so, they were ripping apart the very fabric of their communities. From there, he moves right up the ladder to the political leaders. And his language gets absolutely scathing. He accuses them of a complete moral reversal. They hate what's good and they love what's evil. He paints this horrifying picture of leaders who are supposed to be protecting their citizens, but instead are metaphorically devouring them, just consuming their own people for personal gain. And finally, he takes aim at the very institutions that were supposed to be the guardians of truth and justice. The judges? Corrupt, taking bribes to twist the law. And even the prophets, the spiritual guides of the nation, were totally compromised. They would tailor their divine messages based on whoever was paying them. The whole system, from top to bottom, was rotten. And all of this builds to a truly shocking climax. Because of this complete failure of leadership, Micah declares that Jerusalem itself, the holy city, the center of their world, will be utterly destroyed, plowed like a common field. I mean, it is a devastating prophecy. But what's amazing is that it had a real impact. Years later, the prophet Jeremiah actually looks back and says that King Hezekiah heard these very words, and it led him to lead the nation in repentance, which, for a time, actually saved the city from this fate. So after a warning that intense, it's pretty easy to wonder, is that all there is to this book? Is it just a story of doom, judgment, and failure? Well, no, because right here, the book makes this sudden, dramatic pivot. Just when things seem as dark as they can possibly get, Micah flips the script from this bleak vision of judgment to a stunning vision of restoration and hope. And this is such a brilliant way to illustrate that transformation. Micah sees a future where God's justice is so complete that the very tools of violence become useless. He pictures nations streaming to God to learn his ways, and they will literally reforge their swords into farming tools, their spears into instruments for gardening. It's a vision of total global peace. It's beautiful. And right at the heart of this incredible hope is one of the most famous prophecies in the entire Old Testament. Micah announces that a new kind of ruler is coming, and he's not going to come from the powerful capital, Jerusalem. No, he's going to come from the tiny, seemingly insignificant town of Bethlehem. And this ruler's origins, Micah says, are from of old, from ancient days, basically from eternity. So this leader isn't going to be another corrupt king or some conquering warlord. Micah calls him a shepherd king. This is a figure who's going to lead with care, with protection, with humility, bringing a true and lasting peace. And of course, for Christians, this prophecy points directly and powerfully to Jesus Christ, who was, as we know, born in Bethlehem. So now we've got these two powerful, almost competing themes, right? You've got severe judgment, and you've got this incredible hope. So in this final section, Micah brings it all together in one of the sharpest, most memorable summaries of faith in the entire Bible. So the scene shifts back to a courtroom, but with a twist. This time, God is the one bringing the case, laying out his argument against his own people. He recounts this whole history of his faithfulness, how he rescued them from slavery in Egypt, guided them through the wilderness, brought them into the promised land, and the unspoken question just hangs in the air. After all this, why have you turned your back on me? This courtroom drama builds to the book's absolute classic verse. In response to the people basically asking, well, what does God want from us? Micah just boils it all down. All the laws, all the sacrifices, all the rituals, he distills it into these three essential actions. It is such a brilliant summary of what a life of real faith actually looks like. And the message here is just crystal clear. God isn't interested in people just going through the motions, in empty religious performance. He wants a fundamental change of heart, a change of character. He wants people who act with justice, who show radical mercy, and who live in this humble, ongoing relationship with him. So, let's wrap this up by looking at how this ancient book speaks right into our world today, leaving us with both a powerful promise and a profound challenge. You see, the book doesn't end with judgment. It ends with this triumphant portrait of God's character. This is Micah's lasting message. After all the nation's failure, he reminds us of a God who absolutely confronts injustice and condemns hypocrisy. We saw that loud and clear. But this is the exact same God who offers profound hope, who pardons sin, and who always, always keeps his promises. The final note isn't about human failure, it's about God's incredible mercy. And that leaves us with Micah's challenge, echoing across almost 3,000 years. It forces us to ask ourselves, right here, right now, in our own lives, in our own communities, what does it truly mean to live this out? To act justly, to love mercy, and to walk humbly? In our complex world, which one of those is the hardest for you? It's something to think about.
Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe. It really helps us.